Hello, and thank you for joining a Digital World Town Hall General Council meeting. Today is February 17th, and we are focused on a general update from the prior week. There'll be some interesting, at least one interesting charter for us to think about and review in a draft. There's been some things that have happened not only within society, but within the world, especially when we talk about it from a digital world perspective. And we'll have, there's not a formal vote today, but there'll be a definite draft review and then let people kind of think through it and edit it and comment it. But that's going to be a big topic today. And then just general Q&A. So thank you for joining. Again, this is a Digital World Town Hall meeting. This last week had an interesting conversation. And the last thing that we want to do is in any form push anything related to religion or politics. Should be a definite digital or a neutral, safe environment for folks that may not align with that. But I'll just ask folks, would anyone like to offer a prayer? We've got a live audience from kind of around the globe. Is there anybody that would like to offer a prayer for us to get started? If not, we'll just jump into it, even though from my perspective, this is really a spiritual reality before it's a physical reality. I'll go ahead and just give a couple seconds.
I'm more than happy to offer a prayer, Michael, anytime.
Please do.
Thank you, Creator, Lord, for bringing us together today on this digital platform where we can meet and connect with people around the world. Thank you for guiding us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for having your Holy Spirit to guide these meetings and what we're doing and what we want to do to better serve you, Lord, and also serve the people. Thank you for this time to come together. Please be with us in this meeting and guide our thoughts, words, and actions. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Appreciate those that not only join live from around the world, but our co-hosts and those that are physically with us and also come and go. And those viewers, thank you for taking the time. I know some of these concepts may be difficult to grasp, but we appreciate you taking the effort. As a reminder, this is a private membership association. Some of the things we may talk about might be forward-looking. And, this may be a broken record, but every single meeting for the last 4+ years, every Tuesday, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, we talk about secret combinations and the solution to combat these secret combinations. So it's not just, centralized ecosystems, and we're starting to see more and more and more of them coming out, especially as the Epstein topic continues to surface. But this is nothing new. It's something that we've known, and we've been working in parallel for over 16 years to help build a counterbalance to it. So for those that may not be aware, we believe that there are secret combinations in different types of categories, whether we're talking about media / Hollywood, whether we're talking about big tech, whether we're talking about health or insurance or pharma, or you name it, oil, transportation, metals, commodities, you name it. And they basically creep into big government. I was actually up at the capital of Utah. Stan Lockhart, an old friend, 15 years since I've seen him. I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "Mike, I'm a lobbyist." I says, "Well, what does that really mean?" He says, "Well," anyways, make a long story short, it's interesting for folks. Very good conversation there. I talked to another gentleman later on. It's like, he actually was flying back to New York. He's in the legal world. He's saying, "You know what? We just want money. We just want money. We want power. We want to push control." And that's what they lobby for. And it's like, for people to come out and say those types of things, you would assume that in other parts of the world that may be a normal thing, but it's a reality here in America, in, I would even say, Canada and Aotearoa and New Zealand or Australia or other parts of the world that we have collars on. I would say that there's certain elements of that within your own world. Whether it's right or it's wrong, it's a reality. So facing that reality and coming up with a solution that actually provides an alternative to it is important. And the alternative is basically enabling choice where decentralization is actually an option, where privacy and the ability to control one's life is actually a reality. And with that being said, it's real simple. You get keys, you tie those keys to you as an individual, and then you have derived keys. And that basically connects the physical and digital world. And that's the core of what we're talking about and doing here. We measure couple different things. You Own You is a title that we're focused on this year, 2026. Life Vault's around storage. Utah Life is around an app that basically establishes real-world parallel systems. So we're actually standing them up where people can order something, people can check out with something, people can deliver something, people can sell something, directly connecting buyers and sellers or riders and drivers or you name it. So that's the real Utah Life use case. And then along the way, it's enabled through AI and then some interesting parallel systems, which we'll talk about. This morning, we had another opportunity to work with what's called HB 519, which is unclaimed property modifications within the state of Utah. This is actually a big deal from the standpoint of the individual actually owning their identity and their assets, but as it relates to digital assets, namely cryptocurrencies or those types of assets. So we actually spent some time. If you want, I'll break out and kind of run through at least what I had helped to communicate within that environment. It was actually this one here. Actually, it was this one here. So you can kind of see, this is actually the treasurer here.
Hello, and thank you for your time and for caring about this important topic. My name is Michael Proper. I work with a group of company named the Clear Company.
This gal here is from Coinbase. I had a great opportunity to connect with them. Centralized exchanges, they had a couple things to say. This gal here is Amelia Gardner. She's actually the first woman to ever be married with a cryptographic seal, and she's gone on to basically do about 120,000 of them. She's currently an elected commissioner of Utah County, and they've done literally over 120,000 of these digital marriages. They put over $2 million in EBITDA or profit to the county every year, and about $6 million in revenue. So it's a pretty big deal. This guy, this is the actual treasurer for the state of Utah. And make a long story short, he was one of the three that are actually positioning, but this is a comment, the brief minute that was had.
And we focus on decentralized systems. I also am a member of what's called the digital world, which actually creates some standards, which is opposite of a lot of the things that you've heard today. Instead of being centralized exchange, this whole ecosystem around digital assets and enable an individual to own their own assets as well as their own identity. In the digital world, there's frameworks that actually allow communication with these types of individuals that can prove who they are and prove that their assets are there and then prove that they're actually alive, but it's on a decade basis. So I absolutely emphatically support this bill and the direction of Utah. I would urge that they look at a long-term life cycle. Like Schallenberger said earlier, 3 years is a very limited time, especially when we're looking at generational wealth, which is a lot of these types of assets are holding. So once again, thank you for your attention and for caring about these things. I know right now they may sound like they're not important, but I believe that Utah can actually hold a solid place in the future for governing these types of assets, similar to how the Cook Islands manages assets that are in a trust format. The state of Utah, by passing intelligent laws, not only can responsibly take assets back to the individual, and I'm not talking about just cryptocurrencies, I'm talking currencies, equities, commodities, and cryptos, but also insurance and property. Whether you're holding a title of a boat or a car or a home, you could literally pass this from one generation to another. So I would hope that we expand our broad thinking on not just 3 years as we would a $2 in a bank account. This is a big deal. This is a big topic, and grateful for the attention that's here. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
So with that being said, that was one that was actually passed. That went through unanimously. And basically what it enables, let's see if we can, what it enables is the state to not only work with let me back up. The problem that we're dealing with here is unclaimed assets. And in the state of Utah, the unclaimed assets actually are literally just a couple $100 million per year. But when you get to other parts of the world, like New York, we're talking billions of dollars every year. Like, these are basically people pass away and other folks don't actually understand where those assets went. So that's a really big deal. The other thing that actually transpired in this last week is actually what's called SETI, State Endorsed Digital Identity. Some of you have seen me read it. Some of you have seen me go through it. That also passed with, unanimous consent. There were no pushback. It was actually very well done. I'll go ahead and wrap up on this particular one. You can even watch the vote. And I think it's such an important one. And they also talk about agriculture, and they talk about sheep at the end. For those of you that are not aware, I think this is pretty funny. So here we go.
Hello, and thank you for your time. My name is Michael Proper. I actually work with an organization and is a member of the Digital World. I also am an advisor to the Utah Blockchain Association, and not only a resident, but I'm born here in Utah and raised here in Utah and grateful to be in Utah. I've actually personally had the opportunity to travel over 28 countries in the world, specifically around digital identity, and as it relates to other things associated with digital identity after that. I believe that what's happening here in Utah is disruptive not only for Utah, but as a leader within this whole consolidation of identity, payments, along with AI that will wrap around healthcare and control humanity if not managed correctly now. I believe that what has been put forward is true and correct. I do believe there needs to be tightening around the ownership should only be with the individual. It could never be controlled by a central organization, whether it's government or corporation or other. With that control, which has been sent to Killamore as well as Chris, this bill should be passed for humanity, and we would ask that you support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now they go on to actually vote, which I think is amazing. There's a lady that talks about the realities of what's happened inside of her world.
If you'll turn
She
on your
comes on
camera and
real fast.
unmute, we'll give you a minute to speak.
So this is actually earlier this week. The other one was actually earlier today.
Thank you so much, committee. I really appreciate your time. I just wanted to speak in favor of the bill. As someone who's had my identity stolen twice, it's such a horrible nightmare. I appreciate the fact that this bill will give me protection for my identity, not in the hands of anyone else. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Now we go to the sponsor of it. It was just Kurt Killamore, wonderful
Okay,
guy.
we're going to close
Senator.
public comment and come back to the committee for further consideration or action.
So they actually pass it right now. So you're actually going to be able to see it get passed real time.
Senator Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make a motion that we favorably recommend Senate Bill 275.
Discussion to that motion. Let's go back to the sponsor for summation.
No, I appreciate the motion, appreciate this committee's work. I would just say, as some of the comments alluded to, digital it or not. And so I think Utah is unique in being in front of it. And hopefully by the work we're doing here, Chris Bramwell and a rock star in this stuff, we're building a coalition of other states to get on board so that as we lead out with this, there'll be a critical mass of other states that are also doing this so that the technology is implemented and it has widespread effects. And so just appreciate his work and would just assure the committee that we're moving in the right direction on this.
Okay, back to Senator Vickers.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. It's interesting that you get, this much support for a bill. And I was receiving texts while you're, presenting, and even agriculture is on board for this.
Right.
So there's, you got everybody from sheep to whatever, supporting it. So anyway, I appreciate your support on the bill.
Okay, we'll call the question then. All those in favor of favorably recommending Senate Bill 275 to the full Senate floor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. And thank you.
So
All right.
pretty neat time to be alive. And I mean, that's a digital Bill of Rights, so to speak. That's a big deal. That's a really important advancement for humanity. So those are things that have actually been able to move forward. Any kind of comment or perspective on what that is other than the sheepo on it? I thought that was funny. Any feedback before I move on to the next topic? Thoughts, observations, comments? There was actually a bill that was going through the House today to stop digital marriages. And I thought that was interesting. We actually fought against it and shut it down, but I thought that was interesting. So, okay, so we'll move to a topic unless the audience has to say. Next topic is a crazy one. You ready for this one? So you may have heard about a thing called a decentralized autonomous organization. Some of you may not. It basically is an acronym that is created by man to talk about something that the world then puts a definition behind and then starts marketing, and then it basically becomes something. So the first decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO, was actually enabled within the state of Wyoming. The second one was within the state of Utah. And then there's many other jurisdictions around the world that have started to do this. This next topic is going to tie to a couple new terms: digital economic organism and a digital economic entity. Why? Because there are an inevitable future coming where bots or agents will basically be able to act whether on their own or for on behalf of another. So think about this. Today, one of the valuable things within the digital world is this Life app. Vanuatu Life, Fiji Life, Samoa Life, Tonga Life, Hawaiian Life, Utah Life, Mexican Life, Canadian Life, Aotearoa Life. There's all these different life apps, but they all come back to life. The ability for an individual to actually prove who they are. And it stands for something, I won't go into that right now. But life is for the living. And when we talk about these bots or these agents, there's a reality that's coming pretty quick where there's going to be a difficult trust between what is real and what is not real. We already see it with deep fakes. We already see it with AI and images and videos and movies. Nowadays, we question things more than ever, either that or we just don't. And we don't know what's true. But I believe that if we actually take a step back, especially for what the digital world stands for, and we say, if we're going to be able to identify the difference between a bot or a digital entity or an agent, or however you want to call them in the future, we've got to be able to create a separation between that is living and that is not. And then a process where that is not living can actually be able to be managed by those that are living. And so with that being said, imagine a business that can actually be created by a bot. They can actually hold bank accounts. They can actually transact. They can actually do. And a lot of this is not something that the digital world is just enabling and putting out there, because it's not. It's other folks. As a matter of fact, this last week, there was a gentleman that actually created ClaudeBot, which was then turned into OpenClaw. And then his business and him were acquired and then hired by OpenAI. And what you're going to see from that is a continued maturity of basic utilization of technology for individuals, but in a centralized realm. And so, for instance, they put it in a little virtual machine on a dedicated device with its own email, with its own browser, with its own bank account, et cetera, or a credit card tied to a bank account with a spending limit or not. And basically, these things are doing different things. A good example is some of them will basically jump onto maybe an exchange, and through arbitrage or other types of things, they're able to take $100 and turn it into $100,000 or something along those types of lines, or they lose it and other things as well. But what I'm trying to articulate is, imagine if we took what's living and we actually had the group of us that can actually vote on a human that then can actually manage a digital entity, whether it's AI, whether it's agentive, whether it's not, whether it's a bot, whether it's got its own machine, whether it doesn't. But these archetypes then basically work in a format where so let's say that this DEO manages this DEE. So you're going to start seeing not only humans managing bots, but bots managing bots. And so for the digital world to create a charter where a bot is separate from an individual, I believe that is something that we need to consider. And so what we've done is we've created a document, and I'd love to just kind of read it out and go through it with each of you and shoot holes in it. Like, one, should this even be a topic? Two, if it should it be modified? And three, should we then go to a vote if it is appropriate and it's in a complete environment? So what this is called is a Digital World Charter of Life Stewardship and Digital Agency. Agency is key. That's basically what this is all about. If people can get choice, they can actually have the freedom to choose, which ties to that agency. So there's a couple things that are going on inside of this, and I'll just kind of give you a high level. One, there's actually a verification through the Life app every 10 years where someone actually has to check in. Or if they have a trust line with someone else can actually say that they've passed away, and then it requests them to check in. For those of you that may not be aware, we've actually, and this is the first week, we've actually successfully seen it working within the Life app. We've successfully been able to get a communication system. Imagine Signal, but completely decentralized. You don't need a centralized system at all. And then communication can actually occur within the digital world for future generations with a completely decentralized protocol. There is no Signal protocol. There is no central systems. There are no dependencies. There is no watching from a centralized standpoint at all. So the Life app will actually have messaging built in, similar features and functionality of what Signal has, but it will be completely decentralized. Some of you may be saying, well, we've already got Signal. We've already got Clear Signal. Clear Signal is a version of Signal that doesn't use phone numbers. It uses derived keys. So it's completely anonymous, but it runs off of a centralized system. So with that being said, there's a piece of communication built into this where an individual can actually verify that they're alive. And so the Life app is actually verifying they're human as well. One of the big differences is, we're getting some feedback from a live mic, but one of the big differences is there is no fingerprint or face scan for these new archetypes of these DEO and DEE. Literally, they actually get their own ability to be created in the digital world. We'll actually use some technologies and some templates where people can actually stand them up. They can actually create businesses. They can create entities. They can transact. They'll actually get bank accounts. They'll get credits. They'll actually use their own derived keys, all of it. They can do key rotation, everything, but they will be identified as bots and not alive. So I believe that to take a fork in the road and create an archetype or entities for these bots that's separate from life and actually enable them, literally enable them to actually live in the digital world is important. And that's what this charter basically sets up. Before I read it, does anybody have any feedback or thoughts or concerns or questions, or, even if you say, hey, this is like not where we should be going, we don't have a right to do this. Go ahead.
Yes, Michael. Why do we want these bots in the digital world? I'm obviously missing something here.
Great. That's exactly the type of feedback I'm looking for, is like question all of it. And here's a logical response. Now, I don't know if it's going to answer the question, or I don't even know if it's right. From my perspective, and I'd love to hear others, it is inevitable. AI, agentic AI, it is inevitable. It is going to be a reality. And in my opinion, the digital world needs to be embracing it more than any other entity. And here's why. Because the individual is private. They already are private in the digital world. Their email, their texts, their photos, their contacts, their calendar is all completely theirs. And if they're able to leverage AI, not only for when they're living, but also into the future, if it is done correctly, where the individual, a group of individuals can actually have a voice to continue it or not, And maybe this is not the right time to do it. Maybe we wait a year, you know. It's one thing to be on the cutting edge. It's another thing to be on the cutting edge and bleed because we adopted it too fast. So there's some wisdom in slowing down and saying, let's not do this so quick. But that, you know, your question is very valid, but I think that we have to go through a process of actually embracing where this is going. Some people would look at it like from a competitive standpoint, say, well, sometimes you actually want to know who your competition is and keep them very, very close. And in many ways, this isn't just for competition. I think that the AI environment, if leveraged correctly, can actually be a big blessing for humanity. But it's got to be done
Yes.
in a way where the individual owns their own data, their own identity, their own payments, their own system, so to speak. And it doesn't turn on them. And I believe that we can actually get in front of this, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying is that these bots are happening. No matter what, these bots are happening. So we may as well embrace it and have our own bots inside the digital world that will be private.
Yep, you got it. They will be private and they will be set up in such a way where they can actually interact with these other bots, so to speak, but they don't interact in a way that is negative per se. And you know, there may be realities where it causes problems. And to be honest with you, I think that, you know, you've probably all heard about some of those concerns. And maybe it's something that we can't even control. Maybe we start it and we get down to a point where we just give up on it. But I do believe we should at least question this. And this is not saying that we need to adopt anything or we need to do this, but I do think it should be a topic that we actually jump into.
Agreed.
Any other perspectives or thoughts or feedback?
Yeah, I have a thought on it, Michael and Danielle. The first reason I think you should embrace this new, very disruptive change in the kind of landscape is that, you know, your technology solves a real problem. Obviously, the LLMs and the agents, you know, it's chaos without humans retaining agency. So, and having privacy and control over the data enables, the human to retain the agency as opposed to the to the bot or to the non-human. And at the moment, there was a scenario where the agents were just going to take over your browser and then start suggesting things without you giving any permission. And to me, that's very scary. And I think you can create a much better outcome for people if you use privacy tech. So one, you solve a problem, but the two, and probably potentially even just as important, is the opportunity at this particular juncture. Because if you do embrace it and get ahead of it, it becomes a big platform for adoption. Because you see, like at the inflection point for new technology, like when the iPhone came out, and then obviously Google copied it straight away because Eric Schmidt was on the board of Apple, and so they built Android, and so you had the mobile phone, which became a tracking device in your pocket, right? And that sort of birthed surveillance capitalism. So this is the birth of the agent. Really is the opportunity to steer the future in a different direction. And if you don't get this infrastructure in place now, you miss a window of opportunity. And I guess that's all I'll say, because I think once people see how powerful it is to switch the data off and take control, they will jump on. And it's a really big opportunity for the digital world.
Great feedback and guidance. One of the things that I think it does is it also cements in the use case around the chat agent, because inside of this Life app, there's actually a chat agent. And that's unique to all these other systems. Now, for instance, this OpenClaw could use multiple different chat engines, but in many ways, it's continually, being centralized. The chat agent also enables the voting and the Life app to actually do a form of validation. So we can set up a communication platform, and these AIs can actually verify if a human's alive or not, and literally enable the Life app to actually work. And I know that may sound scary in and of itself, but think about it this way. Right now, if you have assets and you pass away, by the way, this is crazy. And I haven't even talked to a couple folks on here, but my mother-in-law was actually diagnosed with a couple months to live with pancreatic cancer recently. And I was over and I said, why do we have to wait until you actually take your last breath and then stick you in a box and then throw flowers on your thing and then talk about you behind, you're not even here? Why don't we do a celebration of life on the day that the doctor said you were going to die, but you're actually in your box alive, and we can talk with you still, and we can embrace life. And so there's so much to it. But the point is when you transition, usually there's this thing called probate, or like what we went to with this House Bill HB 590, this unclaimed property topic. So for those of you that may be coming into this new, hundreds of millions of dollars shift hands each state, and in some states billions. But is it because they're unknown? Is it because they're just not claimed? And so what these guys in the state of Utah, the way it currently works is if we leave money in a bank account, you don't do something for 3 years, the banks basically say, hey, these guys haven't logged in 3 years. We're going to turn it over to the state, and they give it to the state. Then the state says, hey, you got 3 years. We stick it up on a bulletin board. You don't get it. Well, we're basically making the interest on it, and then we're going to cash it out and you're done. So if you think about these unclaimed property modifications and then this digital environment where you actually own your own assets, like if you come into one of these environments, I don't know which one, if I'm logged into one or not. Let's see if I'm logged in so we can see one. You basically own your own assets and identity. And then imagine with the way you can actually start communicating through this. And so these bots or agents can do a lot more than just proving that you're alive or starting to communicate. For instance, let's say that, this is a snapshot of this particular environment, or let's say, this environment here. By the way, if you get these types of errors, just refresh. It's super simple, but you're transitioning between wallets with one identity. It's actually pretty cool how it works. But let's say that, there's a certain amount of assets within a certain wallet, and the system can actually act as type of an asset manager or a probate attorney type structure. So I'm going to jump into this. Know that there's a lot of things going on. You got voting that actually let me back up for those of you that may be new to some of the voting within the digital world. We as humans are all equal. One vote for one person. It doesn't matter if you're rich or if you're poor. And I would say that some people that are actually poor in a bank account may be rich in life. And so the definition of that shifts around. But it doesn't matter if you're black or if you're white or if you're orange or purple or if you're human and you can create an account, that's one vote. Now, the beautiful part of this is the more that you put into a digital world, and if let's say you validate for three decades, okay? So for 10 years, you can actually get maybe more of a vote. And if you live 100 years, you've got now 2 votes. But when you pass away, your vote goes away. But the beautiful thing is, just like you have assets, and in this way, it's accounts or banks or, by the way, this bank linkage is now up with about 80% of the banks in North America. Different conversation, I'll have to show it to you. You can create assets, maybe it's a home, maybe it's a car, maybe it's a horse, maybe it's a sheep, you name it. Currencies, equities, commodities, cryptos, rewards, bonds, insurance. But what if you actually can accumulate more voting that you can pass on to generation that may be in your immediate family? Think about that just for a second while we go through this. And I don't want to overcomplicate this, but the thing is messaging, voting, and these bots and how they work together is all tied into this charter, I think, in a very intelligent way. So let's go ahead and read it all together. Bear with me, but it's important to actually read.
The Digital
stuff.
World Charter of Life, Stewardship, and Digital Agency for formal consideration and adoption. Preamble. Recognizing God in spirit as the source of life, we affirm that life is sacred and that agency belongs to the living. The digital world is established to serve life. Digital systems are tools. Life is sovereign. Agency originates with the living. This charter establishes the foundational governance framework of the digital world to ensure that digital systems remain instruments of stewardship, protect privacy, preserve freedom, and never displace the dignity or authority of living identity. This charter is designed for generational continuity and long-term stability. Article I. Human primacy. All constitutional authority within the digital world originates from living identity. No digital economic entity, D or digital economic organism, DEO, shall possess inherent sovereignty. Constitutional governance shall always prioritize living identity above digital entities. No digital entity may modify foundational identity layer governance. Digital systems may assist. They may not rule. Article 2. Privacy is structural protection. Privacy is a structural principle of the digital world. Identity shall not default to public exposure. Selective disclosure shall remain a core architectural requirement. No digital entity may aggregate, analyze, or weaponize personal data without explicit, revocable consent. Privacy protects freedom. Freedom preserves agency. Article 3. Digital economic entities and organisms. Section 1. Digital economic entity. D. A D is a non-living identity container authorized to transact under governed policy within the digital world decentralized blockchain. A D, operates under delegated authority, has defined scope and limitation, is revocable, cannot vote constitutionally, cannot alter identity governance. Section 2, digital economic organism, DEO. A DEO is a charter digital institution capable of persistent operation, treasury, management, and employment of Ds. A DIA, operates under charter and renewal, may persist beyond individual human lifespans, must remain bound to digital world governance, may not vote on constitutional matters, must include renewal, audit, and revocation logic. Digital entities exist to serve life. Article.
Now, what's important is when we set these types of things up and then we put them into technology, supposedly they can just run on autopilot. I think one of the things to be determined is, will these artificial intelligence actually be consistent? And I personally have seen inconsistencies, and I do see some code bases that are actually more consistent. But to be honest with you, there is no perfect system here. But what we're talking about are overarching roles where one entity could actually manage another. Neither of them can actually vote in a governance standpoint, but they can actually have some intelligence in how they work and operate. So I hope you're getting all of this. There's a lot in between these things. And if it's too confusing, I think we need to make it simpler or maybe move pieces out. Any feedback so far?
Is this available offline or through a link?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll keep reading and then I'm going to share this right now. Here we go.
Article 4. Governance through the Life app. All constitutional governance shall occur exclusively through verified living identity within the Life app. Only active living identities may participate in constitutional voting. Ds and Ds may not participate in constitutional votes. Consent must be cryptographically verified, auditable, and selectively disclosable. The Life app is the living interface of governance. Article 5. Voting structure and stewardship. Section 1. Base vote. Each active living identity possesses 1.0 constitutional vote. Section 2. Stewardship recognition. For every 10 years of verified proof of life reaffirmation, plus 0.1 vote increment. Total voting weight shall not exceed 1.5 votes per living identity. This structure rewards long-term stewardship while preserving equality. Section 3, proof of life renewal. Every 10 years, the life.
Now, we could go up on that. Let me explain to you if you didn't get what this is actually doing. So for every 10 years that you basically provide proof of life, you're actually getting a percent or a point of a percent increment within your vote. And so it's a way to basically reward people for being involved and being consistent over time. And what's interesting is when they actually pass away, that can actually go as an asset to people that they delegate it to dynamically. Just like you can pass an asset to a next of kin or a loved one, you can also pass a type of vote structure. So it's not going to make a big shift, but it is something that is an asset inside the digital world. Not something that should be sold, but something that should be granted to future generations, because ultimately this really is a system for the future. So any thoughts so far as we continue to kind of move on?
I did want to make one observation.
Please.
With the living identity, and I'm always thinking how somebody can like take that or manipulate it in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of having, seniority and you're, vetted in. Would it be more stewardess of us if we based it off of more of a token and transacting, like it's your credibility, but it's your credibility within your community in which you're involved in. So like you're in Utah, I'm in Hawaii, but because we interact, we then have credibility between each other. And then we serve on different committees. You can see that and it can be kind of taken into consideration but it doesn't necessarily grant you that hierarchy of control.
Super good feedback, like really brilliant feedback. The
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. From a technical standpoint, within communities, you can do two things that really make sense and answer it. One is points. And believe it or not, for some of you, you've been around long enough to know, we actually built a Facebook replacement and actually enabled exporting from Facebook and importing into this new, and we had communities. It was called Clear Community. And we had, like in Aotearoa, every single iwi, every single mountain, every single Maori or marae, all of them were documented. We had all of these different folks that started jumping in. Everything you did, you got points. If you were posting, you putting in photos, you got points. You taking them down, you deducted point. I mean, it's this point system. And the problem is, one, it wasn't cryptographically proven. Two, it wasn't using decentralized authentication systems. So as much as we loved it, and like literally in 4 years, we had like 7 million users, which was, we didn't market it. I think there's good growth to it. And I would even say for 18 months is really when we had the Facebook import capability. It wasn't the full period, but we know there'll be a future where there's going to be communities like a Facebook type system that uses decentralized identity and payments. And it's going to happen one way or the other. You're seeing a bunch of folks that are basically, you got Jack Dorsey's that's doing certain thing with Blue Sky. You got Elon that's doing XYZ. I don't think it's Elon's and X, and even the stuff he's going to do with the payments, I don't believe is going to be truly decentralized. That's why Jack Dorsey, who sold X to him, is working on decentralized identity and payments. He's already in the payments world. If you haven't used, Cash App, that's his world. If you haven't used, there's tons of other stuff, Square and other things. But the point is true decentralization, true identity that's private, true payments that are private, layered on a community that then has a type of, whether it's voting or points or reputation, it should be cryptographic in some form. And so it's easy to do, like within rewards in a community, that's easy. It's complicated to do it because everything that we do, we have to think at scale and duplicatability and a third-party validation system. So it can be audited, verified, but at the same time private. So it's very complicated to build out these types of systems, but I believe that once we do it, we can set it and forget it. And I think this topic may screw tons of things up because we don't know what these AIs are going to do. And I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I think it's the discussion is probably even more valuable than the implementation at this phase. The voting, we could throw the whole thing out, and maybe the right thing to do is just throw communications out, throw voting out, and just focus on the bots. I thought that putting them together and implementing them within a charter at the same time so we could get the developers and the service providers guidance would be super intelligent, but it may be too much too. So please double check that and question it. And, that's what these meetings are about, is to counsel together and to shoot holes in things and to make the right decision, not from one perspective, not from one. Yeah, it's good that folks are in. So anyways, any thoughts or feedback, or should I just continue? Okay, I'll continue.
Shall, automatically issue decentralized reaffirmation notice, require biometric and cryptographic liveness verification, record verified reaffirmation, failure to reaffirm within defined grace period results in, suspension of stewardship increment, reversion to base vote, extended non-response results in governance inactivity, status, dormant identity shall not count toward quorum, Article V, quorum and participation safeguards, constitutional votes require minimum quorum of active living identities, if quorum is not met within the defined voting period, the live app shall automatically re-notify participants, the proposal shall be rescheduled in a subsequent governance cycle, governance shall not proceed without meaningful living participation, Article 7, stewardship trust vote, generational continuity. 2. Preserve generational continuity without enabling domination. Section 1. Conversion. Upon verified passing of a living identity, accumulated stewardship credits may convert into one stewardship trust vote. Section 2. Nature of stewardship trust vote.
So there's a couple things that just went on here. I don't know if you really picked it up. If a period of time for voting, a vote is put out, a question is put out, sent to folks, and there's not enough response, the system will automatically extend the response period. That's one. The other side of it is the ability for a vote to be transferred, the stewardship vote, to go from one living identity to another. We may just want to throw that whole thing out. You know, it's something that was recommended, and I'm trying to just figure out a good way to put it together. But these things are pretty material topics that we're flying through here.
Stewardship trust vote, comma may be designated within recognized genealogical lineage, birth or adoption, comma is non-transferable outside lineage by default, comma may not be sold, leased, collateralized, or delegated, comma may not accumulate beyond one inherited. Trust vote per living identity, comma applies only to constitutional protection and charter level votes. Section 3, expiration and renewal. A stewardship trust vote expires if, comma the heir fails to maintain proof of life reaffirmation, comma a defined maximum renewal period lapses without active participation. The dead shall not govern the living. Article 8, non-domination doctrine, capital.
Now, I want to make a point. The reason why this has 3 different topics that are all spinning around one thing, these new bots, is because this is actually how the bots are actually managed. So I don't know if you picked that up or not, but put that in context.
Accumulation shall not convert into constitutional authority. Machine speed shall not translate into governance superiority. Ds and Ds shall not convert economic stake into constitutional power. Living identities retain permanent constitutional priority. Machines may optimize. They may not dominate. Article 9. Enforcement and override. Living identities retain permanent override authority. Override may be exercised through defined supermajority life act vote. All Ds and Ds must include revocation or suspension capability consistent with this charter. No digital entity may be designed without enforceable governance constraint. Article 10. Amendment process. Non-eternal provisions require, comma verified life act participation, comma defined supermajority threshold, comma transparent public review period. Eternal clauses require extraordinary supermajority of active living identities. Article 11. Eternal clauses. The following principles may not be amended except by extraordinary global supermajority, comma human primacy, comma privacy as structural protection, comma non-domination by digital entities, comma governance through living identity. Article 12. Millennial continuity.
So I don't know if you got this, but this is pretty important, that the human is identified and to be over the non-humans, the bots, so to speak. So it's, yeah.
Identity system shall remain open, standard, and portable. No centralized vendor shall define the identity root layer. Governance mechanisms must remain forkable under continuity of this charter if capture occurs. Ds require periodic charter renewal tied to living identity affirmation. Final declaration. The digital world exists to serve life. It shall preserve freedom. It shall protect privacy. It shall prevent domination. It shall reward stewardship. It shall endure beyond any single generation, in reverence for God in spirit, and in commitment to future generations. This charter is established as the governing foundation of the digital world.
So this is a pretty big document. We don't have charters in the digital world yet. You know, recognizing who we are as humans and the role that we play within bots or agents, I think is important. I don't know if the timing is right, but what's everybody's thoughts, feedback, comments?
I love it. I love it, Michael.
Really? It makes sense.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. And it also adds weight to the conversation we had at the beginning. Like, this is right-minded. And this sort of putting a charter in place is something that people can sign up to, because the first question is like, who's behind this, and what do they believe? And this is a really, I think it's a really it's a foundational document that everything can be built on. Yeah, so it's amazing.
There's another element. Thank you for the feedback and just for paying attention to the. Sometimes I wonder if a lot of this stuff is really understood, and it's nice to. This document here, this declaration, I think is a very special document. One, it wasn't created with AI in any way. You know, this is a document that was, you know, created well before it. You can even see some of the problems here. You have a space there, but this document has helped guide and help to build structure around the guidance, whether we're talking legislative structures, how does it work, what do service providers do, how do councils function, you know, can they create some, remove some. But I think that this document brings in another element that is actually needed, because I think one of the biggest compelling events, definitely of the decade, maybe of the century, is AI. And hopefully, when people start understanding what this digital world can do for humanity, it may be, you know, something disruptive for a millennium, much, much more than just a century and a decade. So with that being said, there's actually some roots to some of this. Like when you go and you actually look at ClearDot's store and you look at the products that are within the digital world service provider environment, we're talking about phones and we're talking about nodes. And when we dig into some of these nodes, there's some particular ones. And actually, before I go here, I'm going to jump into this guy. I'm also going to go to clear.co.com. These are actually the different Clear companies, and you can kind of see here. You kind of fumble through different ones from the foundation and a device that goes out to them. This builds an operating system for the phone layer and then apps and devices. Actually the line of business apps that are particular. Well, testing, 3, 2, 1. All righty. Well,
Yeah, they definitely have looked into all of the rest. The 5-factor authentication is really important, so that's another protection. Is this Michael back?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say while Michael was away, like I hold this Time magazine in my room, and it framed AI as the person of the year, which shows or the architects of AI. So it's been so overhyped, and now it's time to look at what the risks are. And I think the people on this call understand the risks. So it's how can we protect ourselves at this point? Which is where the privacy tech comes in.
Absolutely agree.
So you got to love it. Usually around 50 minutes, things kind of lock up. So thanks for giving me a second there. My point that I was trying to make was we bought 7 businesses over the last decade plus. One of the businesses was a wonderful company that basically brought in storage device, which basically has Ethernet ports. So it actually can run a whole home, secure the home, do a bunch of stuff that's, x86 or ARM-based titans, and then you can stack storage on top of it. And there's even an IoT wireless device as well. So if you have a fridge at home, if you have any kind of smart devices, cameras, etc., you can actually stop any of the data from going off premise that's inappropriate or shouldn't be. And then not only protect your home, but you basically can do a lot of things from a data standpoint. And then you store the data, and it's not your files, it's sharded files of you and others that basically become a storage network where everyone participates within it. The goal is to see if we've effectively been able to get AI to run on the phones, but can we actually get it to run on these devices and then do it where not only does AI do certain things for you, but it also can do access certain knowledge around data and then build from there. And what I would argue, or at least put into your mind, is AI doesn't need to store data to make it relevant. The way these machine learning and large data formats they literally take data, ingest them, and regurgitate them in a very simple format. And what these devices do is actually store the data. So the raw photos or et cetera, are actually stored there and then uses a sharding type data where one system ties to another. If you want, I can show you a video on how it actually works. But does this make sense from a data architecture standpoint?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and jump into this video that talks a lot about the storage side of it. So that's basically what runs the whole storage environment. So this is something that's been around for a long time, but layering AI on top of it with this type of approach where AI is being managed is actually something that I think we just need to think about. I'm not saying that we should push all directions, shift everything that we're doing into this, but I do think it's important enough to take pause. I would encourage any of you to just shoot holes in this thing, comment on it, provide feedback, and really be critical. Like really, if there's even a shadow of a doubt of a concern, please bring it up and let's see if we can work through that. So, does this make sense?
It makes sense, Michael, but we were just talking when you were gone. This is an awful lot to unpack, not just for me, but for other people too. I would like to keep digging into this, just to be able to just grasp it all, because it's a lot. It's really a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I'd love to do is just kind of make me take a step back. I do know that there has been a couple folks that have talked about training. I know that John sent over something earlier today. I didn't review it. John, do you want time to review that, or Danielle or Victoria? Do you guys want to go through any of the awareness or training or any of the topics that you're working on, or anybody want to report out on anything before we convene?
I would love to go over the training. I sent out some stuff before the meeting, and my apologies, it's been really hectic in Hawaii lately. A lot of shenanigans going on, but I'm really ready to dig into this. I'm ready for it to go. Mm-hmm. And on the election standpoint, and making it easy for people to grasp and upload. And here in Hawaii, Kingdom and incorporating, the dollar, the native, the Pono, the digital USD, I think is going to be huge for people because we're currently going through our financial reset, if nobody else noticed. And people need to understand and know how to transact when you don't have a card in your hand that says Visa or MasterCard or American Express or Discover. A lot of people are so connected to that card. And I know I had sent in an application for a Clear card because, we're in that transition point.
You shouldn't
But
have
getting
to send in
people
an
on
application.
board before
Do you have
transitioning.
Do you have a Clear phone? If so, you can just order your card with just, 3 pieces of data. You don't need social security number. You just, an address to ship
I
it to.
it never came.
Wally, would you
I
take
might be doing something wrong.
Wally, would you take a task to help out, provide some guidance
Yeah.
for Victoria on that? Okay.
Yeah,
It does take a while, Victoria. It takes a while to get the card.
How many months?
No, it shouldn't be months, not months.
No,
Okay, it's been months.
should be weeks.
Yeah, so let's see if we
I got
can.
mine in like 5 days.
And the Pono, and I haven't gotten to dive into it. Like a lot of stuff I've cleared off my plate. So I get to focus on this now, which I'm really excited about. That I get to focus on this and do this because I really have a passion for it and I want to see it succeed. And I feel like here in Hawaii, it's a great time
Yeah.
to do this. And I even have some other people that I've shared this with. He actually was able to get on the call, Ralph Sherman. I've met previously and we were discussing using Pono because they currently have gardens and use a bartering system, and being able to use Pono as part of that bartering system and transacting, he's really excited about also. So seeing that come to fruition and, being able to use the digital world Earth and get people to onboard and then get them through the steps to this. These are the steps. This is how you do it. And I think I broke that down pretty well in the email I sent out before the meeting. Please, again, poke holes in it. Tell me feedback is great. I think it's going to come together really quickly, and I think it's going to be amazing.
Awesome. One of the things.
Did you want to?
One of the.
Sorry, I was going to ask
Go ahead.
if there was any questions.
Uh, Yeah, let's go ahead and go back. So any other thoughts or questions or comments? Danielle, John, I know you guys were thinking about training stuff. Is there any report outs you want to have there?
I did run across something today called the Tutor AI. So basically, we'll use AI to create training on particular things. I haven't really dug too deep into it, but I think it might be a good tool to be able to work through and maybe develop some of the academy instructional videos or whatever. I'm not in education, but maybe it could be a good tool that would help with that.
Okay. Maybe Wally and myself and you could independently review it and then maybe come together and provide feedback on it and see if it's something that's viable. It's stuff like that that's going to create a compelling event, and then we just stand it up and it just goes. Whether it's documentation or training or videos or how-tos, and we can't do all of this on our own, but at the right time we can implement the right technology. And that sounds like a really good opportunity. Other thoughts? Topics?
Yeah, so I'm away right now, Michael, but I just noticed an email from Dan, so I'll review that and then get back with you and the group
Okay.
and let them know where that's at.
Okay. That sounds great.
Is there another meeting place or meeting time that we could schedule that would be good for everybody? I know everybody's in different time zones, but having like a consistent, and you mentioned the Digital Life secure chat, would that maybe be a good place to create a group where we can have like an ongoing conversation about this?
The Life app is going to take some time to get into production before that actually happens, but that could be something where communication and video calls could happen from a decentralized messaging standpoint. From a meeting standpoint, you're always welcome to use this platform and then schedule the meetings. But yeah, so it's really up to all of you.
Okay. Right now, we've been using the WhatsApp. Me, Danielle, Becca, Mariano. I did send a request out to John to join. Wally, do you want me to send you a request, or do you have WhatsApp?
We all standardize WhatsApp with Signal. Communication channel to with this new messaging platform. I'm sure we'll do more and more within that. But if WhatsApp is where you guys want to meet, go for it. It's totally your
I'm
call.
flexible. It's wherever the people are at. So where we can meet, that's good, and accommodate people who are in different time zones and
Okay.
working at different hours.
Other thoughts or
It's a-
topics? Yeah, you guys just go ahead and schedule it. Figure that out and what platform you want to use. Again, everybody's on Signal right now or Clear Signal. So, but I do know that I'm on WhatsApp maybe once a month. So if you want me there, it's not common. But feel free to schedule it as you wish. I'll look at this technology that you just popped out, John, and then go from there. And then I'll read the email, Victoria, and try and get your response on that. Other topics or thoughts? Welcome, Ralph. Nice to have you here. It's been hello. It's been a busy week. It's been a lot of topics moving around. I think this is probably a big topic. This potential new category, whether it's the future of DAOs, or not. Who knows? Maybe it's just one archetype. But the way that we looked at it, there's really two different archetypes. A bot, and then a bot that can actually manage another bot, or that is managed by another bot. But please provide feedback on this. We're not just going to implement it right away, but maybe 60 days to review, and then probably beginning of Q2, we bring it up for a vote to push it through. So, or not, But yeah, and if you don't have a life app, that's actually how you'll vote. So I would say we take this to a formal vote, and we even shoot holes in it too. So for those of you that have any feedback, even if it's negative or like it's too complicated or cut it in half or whatever, but let's make sure that we're thinking through this. Right now, as it is, I hear it's positive. We should continue to move forward. If it's anything other than that, either speak now or send a message later on. But yeah. So other thoughts or comments?
I was just wondering, what do you know about Texas and what they're doing with bullion depository stuff? And they're not really even sure. I've just heard a couple of rumors about stuff.
So Texas has actually approved some very good laws. One similar to Utah, where gold and silver is actually a currency, can be used to purchase things. The other thing is they've also passed laws where they have to have a reserve of a certain amount, and the treasurer within the state basically is accountable to that. Utah's done similar things. I would say Texas is probably more mature when it comes to a lot of the adoption of digital or of gold or silver-based assets. Texas was actually here. We actually met with some folks this morning from Texas with the Capitol and some of the things they're doing there. Here in the facility that I'm currently in, they also came down. They were in the first state-endorsed digital identity event session that we had in October. We're going to have another one in April. If you want to join, feel free. Now's the time to kind of plan for that. It's April 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And there'll probably be some events in the beginning of that and at the end of that. So, and then we'll have other states in probably including Texas in this as well. So, yeah. Other thoughts or comments, feedback? S, go ahead.
All right, Sean here again. Maybe speaking of building things in AI, is there like a favorite thing you prefer for, code building with AI at this point?
Well, in general, for code building, Agentive is really and Claude and all those things are wonderful. As far as with AI bots, OpenClaw is really I think the best thing that is currently leading. The problem is there's lots of concerns. There's a ton of security concerns. There's a ton of unknowns. I personally think it's too early. I personally would wait. But there's also a lot of things moving pretty quick. And I think that to have this conversation in the digital world around, these other archetypes and how humans can manage them and how voting can work, I think the timing is really important. Even if it takes, 6 months or a year to implement, I think we got to start the conversation. But the direct answer is it's very young, it's very early, it's very concerning. And if we're to put, our stamp of approval on something, there's a lot of work that goes into building it and then supporting it. And it's got to be something that you can set and forget and automate in certain realms. And I think AI is just too early with a lot of that, What's your thoughts?
Okay. Well, I'd agree. I was thinking that at some point, since this is supposed to last 1,000 years, we're going to have to make an AI that can build to the standards of the digital world, just so that, like, you have the agents coding things that work with the rest of it.
You got it.
At some point, I agree it's too early to do that safely, but short of 1,000 years, the 6 years would be almost, I feel, guaranteed to happen as needing to be a feature. But that's just some musings on that.
Totally agree with you. And we have some current, and taking a step back, if you were here with about a month ago, we were actually using some AI to build code that would say, hey, this company with these products at this website, build a checkout process that uses their products, but it uses decentralized payments and identity along with these types of, other payments and merchant products. And that actually works. That's amazing. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Like within 10 minutes, you can literally rebuild what Amazon took years to build. And so there's some fun stuff. Today, we actually met with a very large, if you're in the US and well, I guess in most parts of the world, but like Home Chef or, any of these types of ready-made meals that you can prepare as a family, or it's already made. There's a company here in Utah that does a lot of those. And we had an interesting meeting with them to basically provide deliveries and fulfillment and actually using decentralized payments. And after, 30 minutes of reviewing it with these folks, they're like, we would like to move everything in our business to this. As a matter of fact, we want to actually possibly fund our business through this. And there's just some real interesting perspectives, but yeah. So do you have anything that you've seen from a development standpoint or an answer to your question or?
Well, my experience, Bolt was my experience so far with that. I don't know what it would take to like automatically deploy something in the digital world, or if anyone has deployed like outside of the Clear team directly, anything in your environment yet that wasn't built to be deployed. But I'm sure you've thought about how to do that. I just don't know what you've done in the past.
Yeah, some of the stuff that we've toyed with is it's literally you set it into an environment on a LAN, maybe in a VM, maybe on a dedicated PC, and you watch it go. And to be honest with you, there's been a lot of scary stuff that's like, we can't standardize on this. We can't support this. We can't. It's either not disciplined or nothing, or it's too early. But Bolt, I'm not personally familiar with. I think that the whole AI industry, especially when it talks about agents, is way early. But I personally see identity tying to AI that will be centralized. I can absolutely see that coming. And that will enslave humanity from my perspective. That's going to be a lot of negative that comes with that. So the goal is, how do we create a counterbalance that uses decentralized identity, payments, and data to enable an AI that can actually be owned by the individual, but it's on guardrails where it's not going to actually hurt the individual. So I don't know if it's possible, to be honest with you. And I think that the code base that we build from and where it comes from is also has the same types of roots, because just like in any code application, you can put backdoors in things and say, hey, well, when this date hits, if this website's not up, do this. I mean, there's crazy stuff that you can do with backdoors, and I can only imagine what they can do with AIs and backdoors. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I was sort of wondering if anyone had ever deployed anything that wasn't on the Clear team, even by human hand. Years, it's hard to imagine years from now, whatever. Yeah. I'm just thinking we need some way to be updating it. Trust or zero a molting cycle, really, to whatever the next phase is.
Yeah.
I know that's a hard problem to figure out, but
No, you're exactly right.
It's all still zeros and ones, right?
when
Or
you
is
get to
that
the machine
changing?
layer, yeah.
Well, I'd say let's continue to do research on the bots, on the education, and on the Ponos topic. I do know that if we're going to do Pono, it's going to transfer into other assets. We have to get the trading pairs built up, which maybe we can have a future topic on that. Anyways, are there any other thoughts before we wrap up today? Comments, observations? If not, we'll plan on seeing you next week. Anybody want to give us a closing prayer?
I can go.
Please, John.
Our dear Holy Father, we're grateful for this evening that we can meet together as residents of Earth, and we're grateful for all the collective wisdom that is being brought forward and used for this purpose. And we're grateful for the talents and abilities that was given us to be able to work in these ways to be able to further the development of mankind in a positive and productive and freedom-based objective. And we ask for thy wisdom to be upon us as we move forward, and that we may be able to see any blind spots that we may not see at this time, and ask for thy guidance to be with us. And we close this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you all for your love and your support and your prayers. And this is an amazing time to be alive, isn't it? It's just.
It
really
is. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, everybody. As they would say in New Zealand, kia ora.
Kia ora.